So get onto our course website. Go down to Lab 2. Print that out. Don't print it out. You can just read it. I have this. I've done a lot of work to update this. So right now I've deleted some problems. Problem 1, we're going to start working on today. So problem 1 is no longer starting your journey. This is now problem 2. Problem 1 is going to be you're going to put together a 10-year plan. I'm serious about this. If you have not done it already, I would love it if you would go ahead and grab this document. I did not post this morning, so if you have not done this already, do not come this way, go around that way. There's a brand new document which is part of Lab 2. It's posted right up here. One thing we could do is just start passing it. So let's take one and pass, left and right. Take one and pass. Those folks need it back there. My new goal is to get Lab 2 posted by Wednesday. How many of you plan to transfer to some program after Foothill College? Is there anybody that this is the last class you're ever going to take for the rest of your life? Good. I'm very happy to hear that. How many of you have some vague idea, if I were to say, identify the transfer institution that makes you smile most? So I'm going to use, in your mind right now, I want you to think of the name of the transfer institution that makes you smile most. Raise your hand if you have a name in mind. Raise your hand if you do not yet have a name in mind. For those of you that do not yet have a name in mind, are there any names from which you can choose? Do you have a list of institutions that you might be able to choose? Awesome. Okay. So from that standpoint, every one of you right now, you're going to take the rest of the day to do this. You're going to think about a potential place that you'd like to end up. Okay. It doesn't have to be, I don't really care what place it is. If you don't have a specific place that you're willing to sign in blood, just choose one of your options. Okay. Now, think about the potential major name that you think you want. Raise your hand if you have a space and a potential major name that you think you want. Okay. Today, I don't know if you're going to finish this in one day. You probably won't. Problem 1 is to go get the name of all required classes for that major at that institution. Map out the next 3 years with post-it notes, which we'll talk about in a bit. Within those subclasses, you're going to find all the ones that could potentially use MATLAB. You're then going to search the web for all teachers who teach that class who potentially use MATLAB. And you're going to identify that in your, you're going to submit to me a document which is your Lab 2. Problem 1 will be a 10-year plan. I'll highlight that in just a bit. In that 10-year plan, you're going to map out, you will have a document which is all classes that you're going to take in the future. As a sub-part of that, you're going to identify potential MATLAB classes that you could take at that institution. And then you're also going to submit a binder with this. So I'll talk about this in just a bit. Let me show you what I mean. I have not yet labeled this. This is going to be my Lab 2 binder. I would not label it Lab 2 binder, because you know what's going to happen after you submit Lab 2 in this binder? I'm not going to keep them. You get to keep them. I'm going to take Lab 2 binders, grade them. Then I'm going to give you Lab 2 binders back. You're going to take Lab 2 out, and then you're going to submit to me the hard copy of Lab 3 in this binder, right? Then I'm going to grade the hard copy of Lab 3. I'm going to give it back to you, and then you're going to submit the Lab 4. There will be 2 submissions for every lab. There will be a hard copy and a soft copy. Soft copies you're going to give to me via Dropbox. Hard copies you're going to give to me in file. I expect that the papers that you print out in your hard copy will be identical to the stuff that you actually submit. So if you have a version that's updated in your soft copy, I expect the hard copy. Do you know what I usually grade? Both. I open your soft copy on my computer, I grab the hard copy, and I actually work through them both times. Could you guess why I want a hard copy? It's hard to write notes on a soft copy, right? It's really, really hard to write notes on a soft copy. It's really easy to write notes on a hard copy, right? So I think that's fair. We provide printing for you in case you need it. Let me show you something that I carry around with me, and as of Art inspired me to change this last time, but this is, you can't read this. This is Jeff Anderson's calendar, schedules and calendars. So I don't really care that you do this for your entire life because I'm not paid to care. Actually, I care really deeply, but I don't have control over that, right? My job is not life teacher. My job is MATLAB teacher, right? So we're going to contextualize all the work that I do in this class around MATLAB. However, I hope that you find this useful outside of this. When I think about all projects in my life, I like to think about this model. This comes from a man named David Allen. There's a great book on this called Getting Things Done. So this is, I've read that book now 3 times. I've actually rewritten the entire books in my own handwriting. I have a lot to say about that. But let me say this. When I'm thinking about all of the stuff that I have to do on a day-to-day basis, I'm down here on the lowest level. So that's today and this week. I have a capture system that I use for this. I'm not expecting you to do all this. There's one thing that I'll expect you to do, but I want to contextualize what I'm talking about here. Any idea that pops into my mind, I write in this. I buy these at the dollar store, 3 for $1. I have about 60 of these, some stored in my office, some stored at home. These are single ideas that I need to do. So I need to update this software. Scantron, LaTeX, Wolf Vision. I need to purchase new lunch boxes for my family and me. No more than one idea goes for a single page. Do you know why? You know what happens if I write multiple ideas on one page? Some of them get done, some of them don't. I have to keep the page. You know what happens the moment I finish something? You just rip it out, done. Right? If these ideas last for more than a week, I actually transfer them to a digital copy on my computer so that I don't have to carry them around here. The moment that I transfer, I rip them out, right? So this goes with me everywhere that I go. That tracks everything that I have in my items. You know one of the reasons that I don't want any of my students to write me emails? Because that's an inbox that is not with me at all times. If you want me to do something, say it to my face. I'll get this out. I'll write it down. When I'm done with it, I'll report back to you. Then I don't have to think about that email issue, right? And that's good for you all to learn how to speak to somebody in power. You will notice in my classes, most teachers think about themselves up here and students down here. You are my boss. I serve you, right? So in order to do that in a way that I don't die and get a divorce, I ask you not to contact me via email unless I've requested it. Of course, you could always do that, just don't expect a response. After I finish the day-to-day stuff, I think about projects. Projects are stuff that is between now and a year long. In my life, I have 3 categories of products. I have active projects, inactive projects, and someday maybe projects. So active projects are stuff that I'm currently working on. Math 105 and Engineering 11 are active projects. I have a number of papers, I have independent studies, etc. Someday maybe projects are projects that I want to do in the future, but I can't commit to a 1-year time frame, right? Even though I can't commit them, I capture those. I have an entire filing cabinet that is just called Someday Maybe. Every time I think about those, any documents that go in there, I create a new folder, drop it in the fun Someday Maybe, anything that I want to go in there, right? Active projects, I'll talk a lot more about. I have a bunch of videos that I want to make on this. After projects, I have areas of focus. This is 1 to 10 years long. Many of you, education, are here. Your degree, I would call an area of focus. Each class, I would call a project. Every class that you have, some classes are active, right? Which classes are active for you this quarter? I know at least one. For sure I know in every one of your life, there's at least one active class. What is it? Engineering 11. Your other classes go in this. I don't know how you do this as a student. You might include someday maybe as projects or classes that you're going to take in the future, right? The reason I would call those someday maybe is because have you actually registered them and paid for them yet? Then they're not actually active, right? The moment that you register and pay for them, could you guess what I would do? Promote them from someday maybe to active. When you finish a class, I would suggest that you demote that class from an active project to an inactive project, and I would have an entire filing cabinet at home for just inactive work. One of the things that I'm going to say, my wife calls me a binder man. You'll see this when I make my YouTube video about this. I have something like 80 binders, active binders at my home, and I have something like 10 filing cabinets. If you ask me to produce a document from Math 1D in spring 2018 from lesson 4, if I was at my home, that would take me all of 20 seconds. If you ask me to find my lecture notes from, I don't know, fall 2011 in Math 226A, that would take me all of about 10 seconds. I have every document that I've ever produced in the last 10 years at my fingertips at any point. I expect you all get to that point. In fact, if I see you in 10 years and I say, let me see, I don't know, lecture 3 of Engineering 11 on day 4. I would challenge you to be able to produce that 10 years from now within 30 seconds in the right space, right? I don't care if you do that because that's your choice. In this class, however, I expect you to show me that you have a very, very well-defined plan for what you're going to do in MATLAB in the future. I'm not claiming that you're signing in blood. That's not my claim here. If you write to me as part of your plan, I really don't care about MATLAB, and as soon as I'm done with your class, I'll never touch this programming language again, that's good information. That tells me your level of commitment. You can still get an A in this class if you do that. If that's the only thing you submit to me for problem 1, that's not A-level work, right? So beyond that, there's what I call mid-level goals, top-level goals, and life purpose. This is very hard. Have you noticed you can find this on my website? I'll show you that so you can see it. Let's see. And yes, this is part of MATLAB. If you're going to learn MATLAB beyond my time with you, then you have to figure out why that's important to you. I can't figure that out for you. So, what I wanted to show you is if you had any interest about who I am or what the hell I'm doing or what I'm motivated by, you can go to my Engineering 11 website. On the side panel, I have something called the Professional Vision Statement. This document and the associated reading comes from about reading 60 different professional development books over the last 10 years. To get the current draft, that's about a 15-year project. I know it looks easy, but this draft goes into an entire organization and life management system that I call my GTD systems. There is an online community about getting things done that you can tap into at any point. Some of the most productive people on the planet that I've ever seen use getting things done as their primary task and organization system. It's an invitation to you. You don't have to do this for problem 1 of your lab, but I hope that I'm expanding your mind. The reason I posted this online is I had many students in the past see this in my office hours, and at one point somebody said, this is really useful, it would save me time, you should post it. And then I was like, yeah, okay, done. So let me go back to this thing. You probably wonder, well, what the hell is this all about in my lab 1 or lab 2, right? So let me show you a model of the way that I do this. You don't have to do it this way, but let me ask you this. If I asked you right now, the project you're going to complete in winter 2023, how many of you could give me an accurate representation of what that project is right now? The 2023? Okay. Let me show you something. This is so to be improved. Right? At some point I'll get the... Okay. So this is my financial plan. I have the amount of money that I plan to make at Foothill College and all updates up until 2053. This is true. These are the things I'm going to get done this year. I just submitted a publication. I did a talk. Those are all on my YouTube site. I have a book club that I'm doing right now. I also have 2 other grants that I'm working on. Next quarter, I'm going to be doing my YouTube videos. I have another book club that I plan to do and a conference that I will attend. Next year, these are things that are going to be done for me. I have a grant that I'm going to submit in August. I have a PDL here. I'm going to teach 2 new classes, probably a 3rd new class right here. Engineering 11 and, I don't know, Math 2B. It sounds like I have to do at some point. Art gets to determine when I'm going to do that. I'm 100% serious right now. I also have a conference that I plan to attend next year. I have some ideas that are coming up for me here. There's a housing deadline, which is the rent in the Bay Area is too heavy. In my mind, I haven't mapped these out yet. I actually know what I'm going to be doing every quarter until 2023. And then I have a number of someday maybe projects at that point. This is all true for me. Now, I don't expect you all to have this level of confidence in your life because you haven't been working for 15 years to put this together, right? However, there are some what you might call areas of focus that I know every single one of you will be tapping into. Do you know what those are? Classes. And in fact, how many of you said you had a target institution and a possible major that you might want to do at that institution? You now have the power. Winter 2020. How many of you know a set of classes that you're going to take in spring 2020? How many of you know a set of things that you're going to do in summer 2020, fall 2020, winter 2021, spring 2021? You're not sure, right? But you could probably, I would guess, get a set of Post-it notes, 1 Post-it note per class, right? And then get that list of required classes at your next institution. And we'll do this together so you can see me do it once. In fact, I'll use an example. Write a Post-it note for each class. Put them in the quarters that you think you might take those classes in, right? And then, oh my God, let's imagine for a moment that you put a Post-it note somewhere where you didn't actually want to take the class. And then you're like, oh my God, I need to rearrange my schedule. And you could color code your Post-it notes if you were so excited, right? You could do green for classes, yellow for blah, 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 red for blah, 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 right? Different items in your life could be color-coded in different stuff. So fun items could be color-coded, professional development items, travel, right? And you could, from now until the time you graduate college, you could have a mock representation of your entire academic schedule with every class that you're going to take ready for presentation that takes 1 second to rearrange. Could you not? If you expect to get an A on problem 1 of lab 2, you will submit that document to me. Every one of you at your target institution will decompose every class that you have to take in the future into this mechanism. In addition, you will identify classes that might rely on MATLAB and specifically highlight those for me so that I know. Let's go ahead and see how we might do that with a specific example. Now, some of you might say, I am not yet ready to commit to a specific institution and a specific major. Don't trip. Pretend like find the one that most closely aligns with your heart. Do that work. If you've done it once, do you know how hard it is to change? Probably about an hour and a half, a lot less time than it takes to create the darn document, right? Some of you are going to go need to buy some supplies, don't you think? I mean, some students tell me that they want to handwrite it, they don't want to do Post-its. You do you. Let me tell you this. When I was younger, I used to handwrite everything. One of 2 things happened. One, the plan that I created, I followed. Can you guess the second one? I did not follow. Now, I have issues. You've probably noticed this. When I didn't follow it, I have one of two choices. I get white out, which makes me twitch, right? Or I create an entire new document. I've done both. Both of those give me a headache. So you don't have to use the Post-it notes. If you want to just be a B-level student. Not funny, is it? Unless you have a system that addresses flexibility better than this one, I suggest you use Post-it notes. If you have a system that addresses the idea that your future is going to change and you can automatically change that really, really quickly, share that with me. Now, some of you might say to me, I don't have issues with being compulsive. If I have to white it out, that's fine. Okay, say that to me. That's okay with me, right? You could also keep it digital. I would expect a print out for me. One of the reasons that I don't keep it digital is because to keep it digital, it means that I actually have to have access to my computer to do this. And you know what happens when I'm live in front of somebody, like in an academic appointment conversation? It's very awkward to like type in, find the thing, right? Unless I've expected to do that. But you know how hard it is to change stuff when I'm live in front of somebody with a document that's right in front of me? It's not hard at all. I just flip to the appropriate pages, switch it around, etc., right? So some people have sold the idea that digital is better. I fundamentally disagree with that idea. It's less flexible, it's harder to access, I need battery access, but that's my own thing. If you want to do it digital, you just make an argument to me about why you think that's better and submit that document to me, right? Okay. We will finish in about a second, and then you can spend the rest of the day starting this. Can I have somebody that wants me to do some work for them tell me the name of institution and the proposed major? I'll start with Michelle. UCSD. Cognitive Science. Okay, so we are going to map Michelle's UCSD Cognitive Science major, and we're going to get all the documents. And I actually, when you see PDF documents, print them out. You're going to include, I'm going to write this all up in a checklist form for you. So let's do this right now. Let's go ahead and do this. So UCSD I guess this is going to be undergrad cognitive science major. Okay. Is this it? Do you know if you want a BS or a BA? BS. Okay. Do you know one of the things that drives me nuts about all this online stuff? If I don't create a document like this, and all I do is use the online system at my college, and my college ceases to exist on the face of the earth, guess what happens to all those planning documents? But if I first create my own document right in front of me and then input all data that I've created into that as a secondary plan, guess what happens if that college ceases to exist? I have everything at my fingertips that I can port to another institution, right? Okay. So looks like you now have a list of classes with approved majors. So one of the first things that I would do probably for you in particular is I might print this document so that I have it in a 3-hole punch ready to be done in what I might call the resources tab of this thing, right? I probably would also print the approved electives and approved specialized electives. I might also print any document that I think I'm going to need associated with degrees at that thing for my degree. Now, some of you might say, well, how does this relate to MATLAB? Let me pose that question right back to you. How does this relate to MATLAB? Some of those classes might need MATLAB. Wouldn't it be in my interest now, before I've decided whether or not this class is a waste of time, to figure out if this class is a waste of time, contextualized in my own dreams? Wouldn't it be nice now, before the quarter has gotten into full swing, to have a concrete list of classes specified for my major with a list of subclasses that will use MATLAB, with access to websites of teachers that have taught that class in the past that highlight specific commands that are useful for that class. Wouldn't that change the way you think about this class? You will do that as part of your lab 2, and that will be the start of a long progression of development that you're going to develop your own dreams and figure out why MATLAB is useful for you beyond the context of it's a prerequisite so I take the class. I will have a full update highlighting everything that I've just said in checkbox form. You can start this work today as soon as I shut up. So you're going to need, okay, be safe. You're going to need a possible institution that you want to transfer to, the list of a major that seems most interested. Once you have that, you're going to get all those resources in PDF form, print those resources out. After you've done that, you're going to list all the titles of the courses by name, and I would suggest doing that. In fact, you can use some of my post-it notes today if you think you're going to be at that level. I would suggest to you, unless you have a compelling reason to do so, 1 class per post-it note. So, each class that you take, 1 post-it note only. So if you're going to take a semester with 3 classes, how many post-it notes would you need? 3 post-it notes, right? And then literally you're going to decompose the next 4 years or 3 years until you end your BS in this form. When you're done with all of that, what are you going to do next? In the subset of classes, you're going to find those that likely use MATLAB. You're going to use your Google research capabilities to figure out which classes use MATLAB. And then you're going to identify that on the post-it note with some like MATLAB used here. That's problem 1 of about 4 of lab 2. The second thing that's going to happen in lab 2 is I will be asking you to read resources, and I can't decide yet. Has anybody read the lab 2 prompt already? No, yeah? Did you notice that there are literally tens of articles here? There's a part of me that can be convinced, you don't have to make this argument today, between now and the next time, here's what I want to do. Each of you is going to download all of these articles, save them in an online or a computer directory, and then print out the physical articles and include those in the binder so that I know that you've seen those. As you finish those, you'll write a check mark to let me know that you finished those, right? The check mark would be finished printing. That's my intention. Ultimately, who are you reading for?
Yourself.
Yeah, so if you don't finish reading it, don't check it off. I don't know if I'm going to grade on that, but I will grade on the existence of that stuff in your organization system, right? And then there are a few these things you need to get done. I think you have enough work for today, certainly.
Yeah.
Do you think I need to give you more work? Okay.
I'd still like to know if the rest of the lab 2 parts of 3 and 4 are still part of the lab.
The one problem that you will definitely be doing is the financial mortgage payment. So that script file for mortgage payments, that for sure is a problem. So I think problem 1 will be your why am I in MATLAB, customized to your future academic plan. Custom 2 will be literally what problem 1 is right now, get involved with MATLAB's online community. Problem 3 will be a bunch of reading having to do with how to use MATLAB best. And then problem 4 will be the script file for the mortgage. And I think that's a pretty darn good lab. What do you think? So that's probably the end of that lab. And that's due, when is that due? Not this week Wednesday, but next week Wednesday by the time I leave this room. Formally, I'm pegged to leave this room at 12:50, but I stayed till I think 2:15 last week. Yep.
Problem not used to actually being more content in school.
Are you specifically trying to make me feel good? Because it worked.
Actually, to do stuff is probably
Yeah, it's almost like I'm trying to have you customize this class so that it's useful. It's almost like I realize that if all I do in this class is teach you MATLAB, I'm failing myself as a teacher at home. But if you figure out why MATLAB is important to you, I think that's much more useful. And I agree, my job is not to do academic planning. But do you remember when I said that the two most important things I want to do for you this quarter? I want you to have a compelling reason. Why do I like MATLAB and how am I going to use it in the future? Number two, I want you to think, this guy's useless. This guy cannot teach me anything I can't teach myself. Do you notice these things that I'm building them into the class? I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm working on it. It should. The prayer is that that's done by Wednesday at 8 a.m. Yeah, it was supposed to be done by today. I gave myself 5 hours to complete this project. After 5 hours of work, I did not complete this project. So the two things that I promise myself every quarter is that I will not die and I will not get divorced. That particular item bordered on the divorce problem. She stays with me because she loves me. But what I mean is, I set aside time and I tell her I'm going to be with my family in the time that I don't set aside. So I protect the creep. Right. So by Wednesday it should be done. Yep.
So that means the before
You can print out the one that you have now as a good start. But the prayer is, so I want you to pray with me. By Wednesday of this week, Lab 2 should be fully updated. I will print that out and make copies and bring them with you. I will also update the online website. As soon as that link online is updated, I will send an email out to the entire class to let you know that it's updated. I plan to print out and copy every lab prompt that I give you this quarter. When you submit your labs, the first document on top of that lab, in the lab handout that you give me, will be the lab prompt that hopefully I gave you. Last quarter, there were some people that like to print out their own because they had fancy color printers. If that's what you want to do, great. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to shut up and put some music on. Thank you for sticking with me through that whole spiel.